Coming up next, East is East and West is West, but sometimes the twain does meet. Stay tuned for our next interview with BAFTA-winning filmmaker Leslee Udwin.
Welcome back to Sputnik. East is East and West is West, and never the twain shall meet, except they did meet, with disastrous consequences for the East. And then quite a lot of the East came to the West, as we can testify. There are perils of Orientalism and other sins in Westerners wading in to Eastern societies dripping in condescension.
The skilled filmmaker has to navigate these waters, and they don't get much more skilled than our next guest. BAFTA award winner, she was named by the New York Times as the second most impactful woman of 2015, after the now forgotten Hillary Clinton.
Her list of films ranges from the iconic East is East through a film on the Birmingham Six, which won the rare accolade of being denounced in Parliament by Margaret Thatcher, to the harrowing tale of a gang rape in India. Born in Israel, an actress under apartheid in South Africa, founder of Think Equal, she is the extraordinary Leslee Udwin. Leslee, extraordinary is an understatement, a typically British one. When I look at your work and you're far from finished, I'm struck by not only how good it is, but how eclectic it is. It's quite a long way from East is East to the Birmingham Six. How do these subjects, as it were, catch your attention?
Great question. And may I just, in honor of orbiting the world with you both, say "Mnie очень приятно, что я встретила вас," which is the scant Russian I have, but you know,
it's
Sputnik
magnificent.
is the name of the program.
How wonderful.
There it is. George, that's a great question, because in fact, the subjects of my films to date have been so diverse and so varying. But there is one thing in common with every single one of them, and that is a theme of humanism and justice. And at the end of the day, if we're looking at George Khan in East is East, who himself was a victim of discrimination, which isolated him and made him become more fanatical and, more intransigent in his isolation, which therefore had dire consequences for the freedom of his family, or whether it was the miscarriage of justice, the greatest miscarriage of all of them, of British justice. In the case of the Birmingham Six, the film that I made actually mercifully led to their release after 17 years of wrongful imprisonment, or the case of the India's daughter, the young medical student who was gang raped so brutally, a victim of the most ubiquitous, relentless discrimination and violence that is meted out to us women and girls all over the world, not just in India, it has to be said, every single country in the world. But the common theme really is human beings.
Well, obviously you're an acclaimed filmmaker nowadays, but you didn't start as a director and filmmaker. You started off as an actress in South Africa, that was. And it was during apartheid. So would you say that inspired the common themes that you mentioned are throughout your films?
Again, that's absolutely the case. You know, I found myself at a certain point on a station platform in South Africa, a so-called black station platform in Cape Town, handing out leaflets to try and inspire people who were oppressed, i.e. people visiting that particular black station platform, with leaflets of Mandela's then banned work. And I saw a policeman at the other end of the platform, and I remember running for cover because what I was doing was illegal. I would be arrested. I then found myself hiding in a toilet, a male toilet, in fact, on this station platform. And I literally sat down behind this closed cubicle door and I thought, what am I doing? I'm risking my life, my ability to make any change happen. For what? Is this going to cause the change? Is this going to bring about that justice that, that I seek? And I came to the conclusion that it absolutely wasn't. And at that point, I resolved I was going to leave South Africa because the only way to stay there would be to be arrested. You couldn't live in that place with any sense of equanimity or self-respect, really. And that's when I left. And I suppose leaving the acting profession, although I did carry on acting in the UK for a number of years, primarily in the theatre, playing at the National Theatre and the Royal Court and some wonderful theatres. But then I got to the point where I thought, I'm just a vehicle to express other people's vision. And I got to the point where I actually I had so much to say. I felt I had so much to contribute to people living their lives in a more just and equal way that I wanted to be the author, as it were, of the subject matter, not just the vehicle through which it would be expressed.
It's absolutely extraordinary, as you still look so young, that you have this span of life experience and still full of life and determination. I said earlier, you've won BAFTAs, you've won awards, you've won United Nations awards, but your greatest award has to be being denounced by Margaret Thatcher on the floor of the House of Commons. It did wonders for the film, I recall it. And of course, the film did wonders for the cause of freeing the Birmingham Six, who all, I remind you, and remind the viewers, would have been hanged until they were dead if we had still had the death penalty. All six were innocent. All six spent 17 years in jail. That's quite an accolade, Leslie. If you did nothing else in your whole life, that's quite an accolade.
George, I'm so grateful to you for expressing that so kindly and so beautifully, and also for the great compliment. I'm 64 years old, so if I look younger than that, I'm very grateful. What keeps me young is hope and optimism. I know we are already with this program, this world-changing program, in 20 countries with 170,000 children. And that's only after 4 years since we started our first pilots. I know that this is going to change the next generation, for I'm sadly of the opinion that there's not a great deal we can do about this one. But I guess that's what keeps me going. And yes, I have to tell you, the thing I'm proudest of in my whole life is that Margaret Thatcher was apoplectic with rage as she expressed her derision of me and the film I'd made.
Well, look, like Hillary Clinton, we'll soon be describing her as long forgotten too. Tell us quickly, in the last moment or two, how people can help your charity, Think Equal.
The first thing everyone could do is go on to www.thinkequal.org. First of all, we have some free materials for you there, which we gathered together when the pandemic hit. We wanted to ensure that families and children at home could immediately start learning these tools and enjoying, not just learning, these tools that bring emotional literacy and emotional self-regulation and gender equality and environmental stewardship and racial equality. All of these competencies and skills that we teach in this program, which are critical to positive outcomes in our children's lives. I want to ask the framing question. It's a rhetorical question. I don't expect an answer, which is the framing question of Think Equal. How on earth can we, who have a duty of care to our youngest children, how can we still in the 21st century deem it to be compulsory for them to learn numeracy and literacy and it be optional for them to learn how to value another human being. Optional, or even worse, arbitrary as to whether they learn to lead healthy relationships, to respect and love themselves and others. It cannot be. On our website, you will also find, we just launched in honor of Children's Day, literally last Friday, we launched EQ-licious, which is the home kit of Think Equal, and for a very small subscription, which, by the way, when you subscribe, you give 5 free Think Equal programs to 5 children in 3 developing countries. So it's buy 1, give 5, but it's incredibly cheap anyway. And you get 12 animations narrated by Olivia Colman and Emma Thompson, Richard E. Grant, Stephen Fry, I could go on, Sofia Cornedo, David Aiello, and these amazing activities which help parents and children together learn these life skills which are utterly critical and have to be learned while our children's brains are still developing. We co-construct pro-social neuro pathways in the developing brains of our children. And if we don't do it prior to that early years window, we can't do it. We're then into therapy and a long attempt to unlearn the bad and antisocial behaviors and attitudes. Obviously, you can donate to Think Equal. It is a charity that is absolutely non-profit, and we give this program to teachers and schools all over the world for free. We have to fund just the printing and the direct costs. And you can volunteer. There is so much you can do. This is a movement as well as a program. That's very critical to say. So you can join the movement, demand that your MP insists within the education ministry that at last this antediluvian education system we have, which was created for the Industrial Revolution to fill factories, and it hasn't been reformed since. It is an outrage and a neglect of our children. Please demand that we bring this missing third dimension in and do our duty of care for our youngest children.
Leslee Udwin, you're an extraordinary lady. Thanks for joining us on board the Sputnik.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Alas, that means it's the end of the show.
But you can stay in touch with us on our social media. On Twitter and Instagram, it's RT_Sputnik, or on Facebook, Sputnik on Russia Today. It's goodbye from me, Gayatri.
And from me, George Galloway. It's been marvellous.